I'm Ben, and I'm the Modern Redneck, and this is the Modern Redneck channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment if you want to know anything. Okay, so we're going to take a little trip back in time, you know, back when I was first starting college, 2014. I was telling, and I just got back from China. I was like telling people about this when in then and again in 2015 when Trump announced his run, and then Hillary tried to really tried to with the whole Russian collusion thing. Yeah. And I mean, the Clintons, they've been corrupt for who knows how long, and they got a whole pile of bodies, I'm sure. Skeletons in the closet, let's put it. Um, but yeah, they get these ugly get kickbacks and donations to their charitable organization, the Clinton Foundation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that this $500,000 speaking deal that Bill Clinton got right as this was all going on. Yeah, that had nothing to do with it. Uh, Even though the speaking deal was in Moscow. Yeah, yeah, they didn't help sell the uranium rights in Utah to the Russians, just like Bill didn't do anything but have a professional office work type uh, interactions with Monica Lewinsky. Let's put it. Yeah, they're about just as likely. So yeah, yeah, and we all know what happened between Bill and Monica. So yeah, I mean they alleged allegedly get kickbacks through the Clinton Foundation, lucrative speaking deals. Yeah, it must be nice. So yeah, and I knew about this in 2013. I'd heard about it on the Savage Nation with Dr. Michael Savage. So yeah, I knew pretty far in advance. And when Hillary tried to pin Trump with the whole Russian collusion thing, there's those liberal progressives with that hive mind projecting again of what they're actually doing and saying the other side's doing it. And, conservatives, I mean, I'm sure some of them project, but the needle definitely leans further in one direction to a significant amount. Let's put it that way. So we'll get into it. Yeah, and again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you have any questions. Oh, and share it as much and share the channel and the videos as much as possible. Yeah, yeah, fitting in first year college, 2014, and then Trump uh, announces his run in 2015. I'm at Oxford College of Emory University, so yeah, yeah, that. And when Trump announced, I went from a Ben Carson fan who I was wanting to really win to supporting Donald Trump, because as soon as he announced, I was like, day one. And a lot of people will know this. I got friends that can attest to that fact. I said, not only is Trump going to get the nomination, he's going to win the whole thing. They didn't believe me. They called me crazy right up to the day of the election. And I also said that stock markets were going to go up the day he won, which they did, and that actually surprised my mom. She thought it would not have that effect, but and she's big into the stock market. Her master's is in accounting, so you know. So, anyways, yeah, not fit, didn't fit in too well right then at Emory. Let's put it that way. And I've rehashed this to people before so many times that I'm just going to provide you links to two articles, and I've got the best main chunks of information from one article right here, and I'm just going to have the computer read it and comment on it as it goes along, okay? So hang in there with me.
Cash flowed to Clinton Foundation as Russians gained U.S. uranium assets. The story behind the story of how the Russian Atomic Energy Agency became one of the world's largest uranium producers involves not just the Russian President Vladimir Putin but also a former U.S. president and his wife, who would like to be the next one. By Joe Becker and Mike McIntyre. The New York Times. The headline on the website Pravda trumpeted President Vladimir Putin's latest coup, its nationalistic fervor recalling an era when its precursor served as the official mouthpiece of the Kremlin. Russian nuclear energy conquers the world. The article, in January 2013, detailed how the Russian Atomic Energy Agency, Rosatom, had taken over a Canadian company with uranium mining stakes stretching from Central Asia to the American West. The deal made Rosatom one of the world's largest uranium producers and brought Putin closer to his goal of controlling much of the global uranium supply chain. But the story behind that story involves not just the Russian president but also a former US president and a woman who would like to be the next one.
Talking
At the
about
heart of the
Hillary
tale are several men,
2016.
leaders of the Canadian mining industry, who have been major donors to the charitable endeavors of former President Clinton and his family. Members of that group built, financed and eventually sold to the Russians a company that would become known as Uranium One. Beyond mines in Kazakhstan that are among the most lucrative in the world, the sale gave the Russians control of 1/5 of all uranium production capacity in the United States. Since uranium is considered a
Wow.
strategic asset, with implications for national security, the deal had to be approved by a committee composed of representatives from a number of U.S. government agencies. Among the agencies that eventually signed off was the State Department, then headed by Clinton's wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton. As the Russians gradually assumed control of Uranium One in 3 separate transactions from 2009 to 2013, Canadian records show, a flow of cash made its way to the Bill, Hillary and Chelsea Clinton Foundation.
Yep.
Uranium One's
There
chairman used
we
his
go
family
with that
foundation to
foundation.
make 4 donations totaling $2.35 million. Those contributions were not publicly disclosed by the
Oops.
Clintons, despite an agreement Hillary Clinton had struck with the Obama White House to publicly identify all donors.
Yeah, I
Other people with
wouldn't
ties to the
trust her as
company
far as
also
I could
donated.
throw her.
Soon after the Russians announced their intention to acquire a majority stake in Uranium One, Bill Clinton received $500,000 for a Moscow speech from a Russian investment bank with links to the Kremlin that was promoting Uranium One stock.
Okay, now just right there, that should raise some red flags. Yeah. The Clintons didn't benefit. It's just like old Bill only had legitimate office work interactions with Monica Lewinsky, and we all know that ain't true. So, yeah, okay. Red flags raised.
Although the Times article quoted the former head of Kazatomprom, Mukhtar Zakashev, as saying that the deal required government approval and was discussed at a dinner with Nazarbayev, Justra insisted it was a private transaction, with no need for Bill Clinton's influence with Kazakh officials. He described his relationship with the former U.S. president as motivated solely by a shared interest in philanthropy. As if to emphasize the point, Justra 5 months later held a fundraiser for the Clinton Justra Sustainable Growth Initiative, a project aimed at fostering progressive environmental and labor practices in the natural resources industry, to which he had pledged $100 million. Arrest and progress. By June 2009, Uranium One stock was in free fall, down 40%.
Oh, and don't worry, there will be links to two of the articles that I just read. Um, you know, like today, so just to brush up on it and get all these chunks for you. So I'll add those in the description. Don't worry. I mean, I mean, yeah, you can do some of your own research too. I just lay out as much as I can, then you go do your own independent research.
40%. Zakashev, the head of Kazatomprom, had just been arrested on charges that he illegally sold uranium deposits to foreign companies, including at least some of those won by Justras Eurasia and now owned by Uranium One. Privately, Uranium One officials were worried they could lose their joint mining ventures. U.S. diplomatic cables made public by WikiLeaks also reflect concerns that Zakashev's arrest was part of a Russian power play for control of Kazakh uranium assets. At the time, Russia was already eyeing a stake in Uranium One, Rosatom company documents show. Rosatom officials say they were seeking to acquire mines around the world because Russia lacks sufficient domestic reserves to meet its own industry needs. It was against this backdrop that Uranium One, then based in Vancouver, BC, pressed the U.S. embassy in Kazakhstan and Canadian diplomats to take up its cause with Kazakh officials, according to the U.S. cables. "We want more than a statement to the press," Paul Clark, a Uranium One executive vice president, told the embassy's energy officer June 10, the officer reported in a cable. "That is simply chit-chat. What the company needed," Clark said, was official written confirmation that the licenses were still valid. The U.S. Embassy ultimately reported to the Secretary of State, who by then was Hillary Clinton. Although
Mm-hmm.
the Clark cable was copied to her, it was given wide circulation, and it is unclear if she would have read it. The Clinton campaign did not address questions about the cable. What is clear is that
Never quite clear with
the embassy
Hillary and
acted,
Bill,
with the
is it?
cable showing that the unnamed energy officer met with Kazakh officials to discuss the issue on June 10 and 11. 3 days later, a wholly owned subsidiary of Rosatom completed a deal for 17% of Uranium One. Within a year, the Russian government would substantially up the ante, with a generous offer to shareholders that would give it a 51% controlling stake. But first, Uranium One had to get the US government to sign off on the deal. Amid this influx of Uranium One connected money, Bill
Here
Clinton
we
was
go with
invited to
Bill.
speak in Moscow in June 2010, the same month Rosatom struck its deal for a majority stake in Uranium One. The $500,000 fee, among Clinton's highest, was paid by Renaissance Capital, a Russian investment bank with ties to the Kremlin. In June 2010, Russia signed off on a UN resolution imposing tough new sanctions.
Now that speaking deal, that seems like an awfully big coinkydink. Yeah, kind of hard to believe all that's just coincidence, huh?
Sanctions on that country. 2 months later, the deal giving RMZ a controlling stake in Uranium One was submitted to the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States for review. Because of the secrecy surrounding the process, it is hard to know whether the participants weighed the desire to improve bilateral relations against the potential risks of allowing the Russian government control over the biggest uranium producer in the United States. The deal was approved in October, after what two people involved in securing the approval said had been a relatively smooth process. The Clinton campaign spokesman, Fallon, said that in general, these matters did not rise to the secretary's level. He would not comment on whether Clinton had been briefed on the matter. Fallon also noted that if any agency had raised national security concerns about the Uranium One deal, it could have taken them directly to the president. The renewed US-Russia adversarial relationship has raised concerns about European dependency on Russian energy resources, including nuclear fuel.
Yeah, that adversarial turn in the relationship with Russia was pretty much caused by Clinton blaming or claiming that Trump was somehow colluding with Russia. Yeah, yeah, that's what changed it from uh, okay relationship that we had to Russia to like then we were a little more worried about it, and then Trump kind of just smoothed things out for a bit. I mean, he didn't start any new wars. Given a little bit more time, he would have actually gotten out of Afghanistan properly and brought on that $80 billion of equipment back home instead of leaving it for the Taliban. But yeah, yeah. Um, hmm.
Fuel. The unease reaches beyond diplomatic circles. In Wyoming, where Uranium One equipment is scattered across his 35,000-acre ranch, John Christensen is frustrated that repeated changes in corporate ownership over the years led to French, South African, Canadian and, finally, Russian control over mining rights on his property. I hate to see a foreign government own mining rights here in the United States, he said. Christensen, 65, noted that despite assurances by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission that uranium could not leave the country without Uranium One or ARMZ obtaining an export license, which they do not have, yellowcake from his property was routinely packed into drums and trucked off to a processing plant in Canada. The Commission confirmed that Uranium One has, in fact, shipped yellowcake to Canada even though it does not have an export license. Instead, the transport company doing the shipping, RSB Logistic Services, has the license. A commission spokesman said that, to the best of our knowledge, most of the uranium sent to Canada for processing was returned for use in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all can kind of figure it out from here. Hope you enjoyed the video. And this isn't all going to be political. I'm going to create other like categories of interest, to talk about, not just politics and news. So don't worry, it's coming. But, it'll probably be next week. So just enjoy this while you can. And share it as much as possible, everybody. Like, subscribe, and comment. If you want to know anything, comment on the video. I will reply to the best of my ability. Okay, y'all have a good one.